You're listening to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
I'm really happy to be here. It's a pleasure for me.
Fonte with a scooping header.
I would like to make the most of with this opportunity.
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Bella. Onside, 1-0. Buffon shot. Oh my word!
He ran around a bit like Bambi on ice. Really, very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans. My name is Matt Markstone. I'm the host of the show, and no matter where you are, no matter how you may be joining us, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thank you for making the show part of your day. I hope that you enjoy it. On this episode of the podcast, we're going to talk to several people. We'll talk with Andrew Coulton, a West Brom fan who is originally from England, but who now lives in the northeastern United States. We'll talk to him about Cyrille Regis and his legacy. We'll talk about the match we just had, and we'll look at kind of some of the similarities in his life and how it's changed in terms of watching and viewing and being a fan of football. And there are lots of other things in there, but I'll let the conversation with Andy kind of dictate what you get to hear. It was a wonderful opportunity to speak with him. It was something I really enjoyed, and we could have talked for hours, but we try to be respectful both of our time as fathers and people with families and things to do, and also of your time, and not just ramble on about stuff that didn't need to be talked about. But I think what we have here, what we chose to record and what I chose to keep in the episode, I think you will enjoy, and I hope you will. And then after that, we're going to talk with several Saints fans from around the globe to try to get a handle on what happened over the January transfer window, how we're feeling about it, how we're feeling about the season, the manager, and all of that stuff. It's similar to what we did at the end of the summer transfer window, only I tried very, very hard to keep it short and sweet with each guest so that we can get to several different guests without having the big, long, gigantic episode. And I think you'll be happy with how it turned out, because I think we're going to be right around the normal episode mark, where it easily could have gone on for much longer than that. And I want to just take this second to thank everybody who responded to my call for callers on Twitter, who was willing to talk with me. For those of you who couldn't make it, we couldn't make a time work. Thank you anyway. I appreciate your willingness to come on. And it's so much of this is about learning from you and talking to you and getting to hear your ideas and opinions about the team. And I truly do appreciate it. So I hope that you enjoyed the episode. And let's jump straight into it with my conversation with Andrew Coulton. You can find him on Twitter at Andy from New Hamp. And the links to all of that is in the show notes, as well as a link to the article he wrote on Cyrille Regis, who sadly passed away a few weeks ago and who was honored at the West Brom Southampton match last Saturday. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Andrew Coulton. I'll talk to you after that, and I hope you enjoy it. We'd like to welcome to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, Andrew Coulton. You can find him on Twitter as Andy from New Hamp, and he is a West Brom fan. We're here to talk about his movement over to the U.S. and get his sense of what it's like to support a team from the United States when he used to be able to support them from the UK, and kind of look at both of our teams' predicament and talk a little bit about the match that happened on Saturday. So, Andy, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time to share with me and share with us. And I guess I have to kind of apologize about the result. I know you guys needed 3 points as well, but as a Saints fan, I'm super happy, and I'm sure most of the listeners will be happy that we were able to pull that out.
For sure. First of all, as a Baggie, we really respect what Southampton's commitment to the Cyrille Regis occasion today, waving the flags, the internet sort of drive to try and give this amazing person the send-off he deserved. And let's face it, you have the three Wallace brothers who were the forebearers of black players at your club, and I'm sure Cyrille had a part to do with that. So there's always a connection between the clubs. I think we're both very similar clubs, community-based, family-based. We wear stripes, struggling a bit this year. But yeah, I'm proud to give a perspective, and congratulations on the win. It was deserved.
Oh, yeah. I have to say that's probably the best that we've played all season in terms of being able to actually control a game when we're not just trying to defend like we did, say, against Man City or Arsenal or some of those other matches. So it was nice from a Saints point of view to see that. But like you said, the Cyrille Regis passed away recently, and you guys had a big thing, and the Saints fans are really, really good and really, really respectful when it comes to that type of thing. And it was good to see, because really there's not a lot of positive going around the club right now. It would have been really easy for everybody to kind of just switch off and say, we're not doing that because, we're not having a good time. So we're not. And it was really nice to be able to see everybody kind of take a minute to recognize that some things are bigger than what's going on the pitch right now, which I'm sure that Cyrille's kind of legacy shows.
Yeah, his legacy was incredible. And I mean, the outpour of emotion through the world of soccer, or football, sorry, wasn't just at our club. There's a great tribute on the West Brom website with numerous black players who Cyrille really was the forefather of in terms of acceptance, in terms of inspiration. I used to watch West Brom back in those days, travel the country watching them, and just incredible the amount of things you'd see. The vitriol, the aggression, the awful way people treated free black people. And Cyrille, Laurie, and Brendan, the only survivor now, they led that vanguard of resistance brilliantly. They're just great people. We play such champagne football, let's say, expressive, beautiful stuff. And Cyrille's legacy, will stay on forever. It was such an important player on so many levels. So often these minute silences are, it's a decision made by a family. It was an ovation today, and every side of the ground gave him that ovation, and it was completely deserved. One day there'll be a statue for him, and fingers crossed when Southampton come back and play us, Saints fans can go and quite rightly pay respect to an amazing person as well as an amazing player.
Yeah. Now, when you were growing up watching West Brom play, you mentioned to me last night before we were chatting back and forth on Twitter that your family was your dad a Derby County fan? Is that what you told me?
Yeah, I was a Derby fan in the Clough years, and I was too young to really argue with him. I used to go and not support Derby, but sit by his side and share a season ticket. And so the first year they're in Division 1. That's the premise now. Clough's first year there. We were there watching them play. I saw Southampton back in the day, players like Shannon, players like Terry Payne, players like Ron Davis, quite a forward line there. Mm-hmm. And just great days. So I saw all the damn United. I cheered for West Brom despite the fact, Derby were playing, and, my dad allowed me to do that. Yet again, not much success. I've been a Baggies fan. It's almost a lifetime script. But yeah, that's how I started. Before I could get a train on my own, my dad would never get to Birmingham, so I ended up going on with my brothers, and that's how we sealed our love for West Brom and seeing your first game at the Hawthorns. So it's a strange start in many ways, but I wouldn't have swapped it for the world.
Now, when you made the decision to support West Brom, what was it like going down to the stadium with your brothers on the train, doing all of that stuff? Can you describe that a little bit for me?
Yeah, Birmingham's not the best city in the world. At the time, it had a bit of an edge to it. And what was quite unique was that there was many train lines going to Birmingham Station. So back in the sort of late 70s, you're running the vanguard. It's not just actually early 80s. Yeah, late 70s, of course, you'd be running the vanguard of considering who are Birmingham playing today or who are Villa playing. So there'd be groups of fans sort of, just at the station, and what the safest place, to be honest. You'd have to get one or two buses then from the station to the ground, and it's the same as any sort of old school ground. There's a real edge to it, and real. It's just part of the community, and the community in West Brom is fully behind the team. Smell of hot dogs, the blue and white scarves. The days of, say, Regis was one of they were the days I really got into it. So yeah, different times, but still the same passion.
Yeah. Now, do you remember the first time you saw Regis play?
First time, yeah, it would be back in '77, and it was just. I didn't see his first game. His first game was against Rotherham, and that was in the cup, and that was a midweek game, so it was a bit tricky to get to, and he scored in that game. The Norwich game I missed. The third game he played that I saw, but already the build up to his he just physically was nobody like him. There's no Cyrilles playing in the league with an L-E at the end of their name. It was a very exotic name, a very exotic look, and so straight away, that if you like, if you just attracted to a player who has a bit more of a different edge to them, and wasn't just Cyrille. I mean, it was Cyrille, Laurie, and Brendan. There's the three of them. That was the key to it. It wasn't just one of them, but obviously now Cyrille's took the attention because of the events 2 weeks ago, which was an absolute shock. Fit as a fiddle, incredibly fit bloke. I know a lot of people who know Cyrille very well, who work with Cyrille, and he should be with his family on a cruise. It was his 60th birthday last week, and he booked and paid for a cruise for his whole family. So life is so bizarre, it can't be crueler. They should have been there, in the bosom of the family, and instead they were celebrating his life at the Hawthorn. So you really can't get more extreme than that.
Looking back over his career and over his life and stuff like that, what really set him apart, I guess, from some of the other players? What makes him, in your mind at least, one of those standout players that you're likely never to forget?
Well, you dream of players. The players that I am attracted to in terms of ability to do the things I can't do. I was a midfield player. I was solid, played semi-pro for years, but I couldn't bustle and barge and use pace and use power and physique to blast through gaps and score goals. There's no way I could do that. And so, immediately you become a massive fan. Same as Laurie Cunningham. I couldn't dribble like Laurie Cunningham. I couldn't show the same guile. I couldn't take corners with the outside of my foot. These were very revolutionary times and players. So, I was so into Cyrille. That was very, very close to getting a tattoo, which for a 17-year-old white boy would have been bizarre, having a black guy in your right arm, a scrawny arm, and his muscular figure, heading it or powering it in a shot. So, it became an all-over passion. And part of the makeup of it, as a Baggies fan, this is not going to happen very often. You're not going to have your dreams made true, where you're having a team that just is so exciting. And so it's happened. We've never had the players since. So, as fans, we just embraced it. And I'm one of many, many, many are in that situation. So, yeah, just different to anything we'd seen before or ever since.
You've gone from kind of attending the matches and being around and taking the train down to the station and all of that, and now you're up in New Hampshire, and which is much. What's the weather like right now? Just as out of curiosity.
UK, it's -12, so it's around 0. So it's okay. I've been out all day in it. It's just a regular winter stuff. Bit of wind chill as well. So it's regular day.
I've been out all day as well, and it's 80 degrees, and I have no idea.
Yeah, it's perfect for it. The weather between Southampton and West Brom isn't that quite extreme difference, but no, I've been here for 18 years. I embrace it. I adore the place. It's a great part of the world to live. Now
that you've been in the U.S. for that long, what's the biggest difference between watching, following your club then when you first got here to now? Obviously the TV coverage has probably helped a lot, but what else, what do you miss about not being in the UK?
That's a great question. You miss the immediacy of games. You miss the ease to get tickets. You miss the option of going. Let's face it. I go every year. I fly back every year to see one game, which in a sense is incredibly exciting. So you really make the most of it. I'm jinxed, Matt. I've been the last 5 years. We've scored one goal in 5 years at home. It's hardly a great record. I'm going back this day, push and play Southampton. I play Liverpool, sorry. So, it's going to be a really tough game.
Mm-hmm.
But no, over here, bizarrely, you get so much TV coverage. Every game's live. So, it's blanket to blanket, sort of watching it rather than actually being there. And nothing beats being there. So I miss that. Saying that, I'm a New England Revolution fan, so I watch the MLS. It's a different season, a completely different sport in many ways. You drink margaritas at half time. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And there's no relegation or promotion, so it's a lot more fun. It's a real family occasion. Going and watching West Brom is pressure. Man alive, it's pressure, and it always has been. That's why the Regis years, is a release of that pressure. It's a contrast.
Yeah. The MLS games are different for sure. But I am very excited to be going to the UK for the first time. My family's never traveled outside the country, so we're going over the Easter break because that's teachers were off then, and they're playing in London twice. They're playing West Ham and they're playing Arsenal on the weekends that we're there. So hopefully we'll have a good time out, and it won't be hopefully we'll work the trains the right way, and we'll get to the match and all that stuff on time.
Yeah. Matt, you know, the difference between, you know, doing what you're doing here on the West Coast and just being there is so pronounced. Every sense will be satiated. So exciting. I'm really thrilled for you. And I'm sure to meet a lot of your friends through the podcast will be just as important and just as good. So, yeah, that's a great thing about the internet. I think you do meet a lot of good people, good fans from around the world very easily. So that's one strength of it for sure. So yeah, I had a great time.
Yeah, it's this has been such a learning experience. I mean, everybody from other Saints fans to fans like you of other clubs that we've, you know, somehow made this connection over a sport and through the internet and all of this stuff. It is, I don't know. It's something that I didn't really expect, I guess, when I got into the podcast, even though it's kind of what I wanted. I wasn't sure it was going to happen. And this has been the best thing about it is doing what we're doing right now, which is getting to learn about the history and getting to learn about your experience and things like that. So it's something that I can't. That's as best as I can do to put it into words.
That's totally true. Yeah, good people gravitate to good people, and so fans from clubs, you know, we have no agendas. We just have the same passion for the teams. We just wear different colours. Simple as that. As I say, we connect and we share experiences, and it's as I say, I totally agree. I totally agree with that statement.
Now, I know that you also do some writing, although I'm not certain about if it's related to the club or not, or what is it that you do write about?
Yeah, so I'll get to the club. I wrote for a website called the Premier League Panel, and I wrote almost as a weekly basis. I did match reports. I remember writing one of Southampton last year, beat us at home, and I just wrote pretty much similar today in that sense that it was ball playing skill and possession and vision versus artisan workmanship, and skill always wins. I remember writing that last year. So I wrote a weekly piece, and it wasn't like a match report. I wanted to go deeper than that and have fun with it and explore different angles. And it got really decent reviews, really good reviews. And then I was asked to write for a website called Over the Bar, and I wrote a piece on Cyrille, actually. It was very gutturally written. I think that as a writer, you know, that some of your best writing comes from your soul rather than from from overthinking it. And so I wrote a piece about Cyrille, and it got really, you know, it was what I wanted. When a hero dies, if you can somehow get close to the words that you feel on paper, then you know you feel pretty pleased with it. And so I'm really happy to share that, and it's gone very well. So I'll be writing for that website, you know, definitely from now on. So yeah, writing something, again, it's just expression, and it's just another means of connecting, which I think is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I did see that piece on Cyrille, and I thought it was great. And for somebody who is new to the Premier League, who is, you know, I didn't experience that the way you did in terms of watching Cyrille and his teammates kind of struggle and come through that. And so it's hard for me to understand all of it, but to see, to see what he means to people like you who were there and have watched him and to see what he means to the rest of the Baggies fans, that, I don't know, you can feel it. You can feel how important he was. And I think it came through in your piece as well.
Well, thanks, Matt. I mean, we're both teachers, and, you know, with teaching, you have a guest speaker who's lived and experienced. Their clarity of mind and voice and attitude is just spot on. And so I couldn't read about Cyrille and write the way I did. You have to put your heart into it, because part of your heart was thinking seriously when he passed away. We're all going to pass away at some stage, obviously, but at 59 with the world at his feet, still, you know, and just shocking. So yeah, thanks for that.
No problem. But you know, coming into the season, kind of moving forward, what were your expectations coming into the season for West Brom?
It's funny, we're both in the fan zone on NBC, and I was asked, will you stay up or not, in one word, and my word was 17. That was like a prediction. There was hope, you know. It wasn't like I was no way going to finish above 17. That was probably in November. We started the season again. I thought we'd come 17th, then still I have some hope that it could happen. That's still a messy relegation zone. And I believe firmly we have our first 11 key players missing today. Really killed us. You know, he spoke about the fact that the best Southampton have played. And quite rightly, he passed the ball beautifully, looked smooth. But we were so slow in central midfield. Got a guy called Krychowiak, who's a Polish international, who adds a different layer, a different sort of angle of an attack as well as defence. Has a bit more speed about him, and the whole balance of the team was off. With him back, with Evans back, Gibbs, they're your key players. We haven't got a squad. He showed it today. We're weak in certain areas, and same with J-Rod. He's been playing so well for us, and we think the world of him, and I'm sure got great reception today. He didn't start, so Pardew picks his best. He has actually. He made a big impression on us in terms of his first few games. This was his worst game coaching, I think, without any question. So hope he learns from that. What can you say? If he doesn't, we're down. Simple as that.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that Pardew's made an impact. I mean, obviously, Tony Pulis is known to play 4 center backs across the back line and look to score on a set piece and just not allow the opponents to score. And you played really, really well last season until you got to 38 or 40 points, and then you kind of shut it down, and it was early still. And so what's the biggest difference that Pardew has made? And even though I would say that maybe the points aren't there to back it up, you seem, and many fans seem to feel like he's actually improved you guys a lot since he came on board.
It's so bizarre, isn't it? I mean, we've won one game in 26, and we're talking about improvement. Pulis, you can't have everything in life, and certainly we will survive, but the method of it was just draining, for the players, I'm sure, as well as certainly the fans, to see those blocks of 4 and a 5 and then Rondon on his own. So what Pardew's done is freed that up, is given more responsibility to attacking players. Again, performance-wise, we've played a lot better. We were on a nice little run till today. But again, I think it just showed the squad. For him to have an impact, he needs a certain type of player. He needs a Chatley. He needs this guy, Krachowiak, to really dictate midfield. And there was no one there who, Barry got booked early and that minimised his role, and Jakob was slow. So, yeah, he's certainly more of an attacking coach, and, as fans will embrace that. But again, I think the tolerance today went a little bit because, as I say, it wasn't a well-coached game. And with only 12 games left, you can't afford many badly coached games. We have to win 5 or 6. And, you want to give yourself the best chance. Despite the fact, Southampton played some beautiful football, and I don't want to be, there's always two sides, and I don't want to bash Southampton at all. You play some great stuff, and you usually do. So, there's no shock there.
Yeah, well, I mean, with our manager this season, a lot of us have been critical, and I think it's been fair. Dropping players who have scored goals, dropping players who everybody looks like we're in form, playing, just people out of position and things like that. And then it hasn't really seemed to click, but today he seemed to, for the most part, go with a lineup that most of us thought was one of the strongest lineups we could have put out. And I think that Lamina in the midfield was turning it over and really driving us forward. And I thought that Tadic and James Ward-Prowse and even Buffal all had decent games. And I thought that we looked pretty good today. But as you said, it was against a weakened West Brom side. So and because we've kind of not been as consistent this season, I don't know how many times I've said, this is the performance we can build on. And then next time it doesn't happen. And it is somewhat frustrating because you don't know how many more times you can say the same thing. And then kind of, we got to play Liverpool next and maybe it just all goes out the window.
Well, I'm not sure it's about playing us, but you seem to specialize in amazing goals. I mean, think of Buffal's goal at your place. Just brilliant. And all 3 goals today were outstanding. Lamina was the difference. If West Brom had Lamina in the middle of midfield, I have no doubt we would have won the game. And I didn't know a lot about him, to be honest with you, pre-game. But then I went in to look into his background. My gosh, what a signing. And if he can give you that foundation, then you made up. And the goal he scored was just fantastic.
Yeah.
You mentioned that players are, dropping players. Well, Rodriguez has scored 5 in the last 6 games. On the run that we've been looking for ages. Okay, we get Sturridge in, which is a great signing. I really applaud that. But to drop Jay Rodriguez was nuts, truly nuts. So you're asking for trouble in that sense. But no, as I say, all the goals you scored yet again were excellent, and as I say, you were smooth, technically very, very good. The overlap, which I love your fullbacks. When they really, really crack on. And I think Southampton's a real confidence team. when they're on, they're on. And, you could just see that when that second goal went in, the whole game changed. Changed in an instant. But you were threatening before that. But once those goals went in, the confidence really kicked in.
Yeah, I would say that, we have struggled to defend corners and set pieces, and really our center backs are very technically good. Like you mentioned, they're good on the ball, but they are not strong in the air. And when you guys got in there early, Stevens lost, Higazi, I think, and he put that ball away. And then I know from me watching at home, it was kind of just like, it was, here we go again. This is not what we need. But immediately after that, you could really see the team going like, no, we're going to do this. We're going to push through it. And they kind of were on the front foot. And I think you guys kind of did what we tend to do, what Southampton tend to do is sit back when you got the goal, you kind of dropped off a little bit. And I was happy that we took that opportunity to push forward. That is the most positive thing that I can say about today is we kept pushing, even when you guys hit back.
Well, the problem was, midfield, we didn't have players who could actually break. There were, Barry and Jakob just sat the whole time. Both goals were headers. So again, maybe that's your Achilles heel still, that we conceded. But honestly, I don't remember us really having many chances in open play. Our big threat was free kicks and corners, and even that, I can't get many great saves. It was, as I say, every team was a weakness, and we've forgotten how to win. You're in the leader for 4 minutes. There's 86 more minutes to really consolidate that and strengthen, and we just didn't. You're completely right, Matt. We sat back and allowed Southampton, who've got good enough players. Ward-Prowse, fantastic player. His vision, his skill on the ball was excellent, and we got opened up. And again and again, and you could see the goals coming. You could see it. It was a fear that your technical players would find a way, and they certainly did.
Yeah, it's been a good. I think today, like I said, I've said it a ton of times, I think it's a performance we can build on it, and hopefully we can take some confidence from it moving forward. But how many of the players that you were missing today are going to be back when it comes time to play you in just a few weeks in the FA Cup?
It's hamstrings, Matt. It's a risk, isn't it? Do you give it another week and, ensure that they'll play the rest of the season, or do you keep the players who we've got now? So with Hammers, it's Evans, Gibbs, Shoviak got kicked against, got stamped on against City. And so I think that's the reason he was out. But Evans and Gibbs particularly, Gibbs has been a really good signing. So I can't answer that. It's risk reward. I don't see if there's a risk they'll play them. They'll save them for the later league games, which is more important in some ways. Gloria's a cup. One of us is going to be in the last 8 of the cup. It's exciting, but whether it's a priority, I don't know. Maybe it will be. I think you'll be mid-table and you can start looking forward rather than looking behind you, which would be a lovely feeling to have.
It would. I'm you mentioned 17th earlier, and I'm wondering if that's where we're going to wind up being, just with the table so tight and some of them we have a run of winnable or possibly winnable matches, but we still have to play Liverpool. We have to play Man City. We have to play some of these bigger teams that we're gonna come up against it here. And personally, I didn't really think Pellegrino would prioritize the cup as much as he did in the last round. But it looks like it's something he just wants to continue the confidence, and hopefully it works out. Hopefully we're able to do that. But we will see. And like you mentioned, I don't think in any way you will jeopardize the health of some of your players in a cup competition, given that you're currently sitting in the relegation zone.
Yeah, I went to the cup game. I think it was the 5th round, actually, back in 78, 79 between the Baggies and Southampton. And that was a Cyrille game. We did everything but win the bloody game. Terry Geno, I apologise to the Saints fans, I mispronounced his name, had an absolute blinder. And it was 1-1, and we lost the replay at your place. So we have a good history. It was a good, decent game, but that's when we had a decent team, and that's pre-Premier League, and certainly both our teams didn't worry about relegation then.
Right.
This time, as I say, Pellegrino may well go with the strongest team, and looks like you've got a strong squad. You bring in some cracking subs on. We didn't have that option today in terms of the quality. So we'll see where it goes.
it's been tough to find game time for everyone because we weren't involved in any European competition. And I think the squad has been built up a little bit for that. And we didn't go deep in the EFL Cup. We were out at the first hurdle. So all of a sudden you have some of these guys who were kind of there to play those competitions, and now the competition isn't there. And now we're kind of in a place where you got to just play the guys who are feeling it, because, you know, you need to keep that confidence up, and you need to show that run in the league. So we'll kind of see. You mentioned to me at one point that you coach, and did you coach a player who at some point played for Saints?
Yeah. I coached him for 4 years. Yeah, he was signed during the Harry Redknapp days, and he signed through the advice of actually Harry's son Jamie. Jamie went on loan to Southampton. It should be early 2000s, and he was a central defender. He went multi-million transfers from Spurs to West Ham. A lad called Callum Davenport. He was Californian, actually. His grandparents are, and he was born in Bedford, England. And I taught him for 4 years in England and coached him. And I was a bit of a mentor to him. You know, his parents went through a bad patch, and helped him through that. And he was an England under-21 international. He was on Wenger's radar as a youth player, but he never quite kicked on. I mean, Callum was an awesome player, but just shows the level you have to be. His passing was very, very good. He's 6'5", 6'6", so, you know, fantastic in the air. But his footwork let him down at the highest level, quick feet. Someone like Tadic would take him apart. Just that extra half a yard he'd find. So, like was, Callum signed during the last few weeks of Redknapp's career time there. Callum played, I checked online, he played 7 games for Southampton, and then went back to his parent club, who were Tottenham Hotspur at the time. Callum's story had a horrible ending, actually. He was attacked by his sister's boyfriend, and it was on a Saturday night, and he was attacked with a knife, and the boyfriend tried to end Callum's career by stabbing him in the thighs. And Callum would have died. He was lucky he didn't bleed to death. It was a Saturday night. There was no traffic in Bedford, and they managed to rush him into the hospital before he bled to death. He was only 27 at the time, still at the peak of his powers.
Right.
But he never returned. His damage to his thighs was that bad that he never ever played again. So he was a good lad, Callum. Yeah, great lad. And it just shows you, it's a very strange narrative, but there you go. Yeah, I used to coach that Callum. I'm sure some of the fans remember him.
Yeah. Well, like you said, that's a terrible ending to that. Are you by any chance still in contact with him?
A bit less so now. Yeah, he's sort of, since his career ended. But sadly, there's like a race angle to the attack, and it's well documented as a court case and goodness knows what. But yeah, we lost a little bit of touch post retirement, but when he was playing, the beautiful thing was he always called me Sir or Mr. Coulton. He never called me Andy, which is a respect thing, I was always his teacher and his coach. So yeah, as I say, it was very sad, very sad.
Yeah, well, it's nice that you have that connection, and I'm sure I know that sometimes the connections with students and people that continue after they left the classroom and things like that. Sometimes you're not sure if it's going to continue, but when it does, it is something that is great. And unfortunately, Callum's story has, not the greatest of endings, but it's really nice that you were able to kind of be there for him and do that.
So there were many kids who are players who got released at sort of 12 and 13, and it breaks the heart. It's a very strange system in England, in that, except for Southampton, they sign kids very, very young, and they dismiss them pretty quickly. Not many make it, and dreams are ruined very, very, very regularly. So in America, the difference is the draft system, as you know. The MLS pick players who are from college, and it's an age where, they deal with stuff. Callum was one of the few that actually made it. There was not many, you're very proud as a teacher, incredibly proud. You watch him score for Spurs against Man City at the old Main Road. I think, my gosh, I knew that kid when he was 9. How it's in his career.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty surreal.
All right. Well, Andy, I appreciate you sharing your time with me, sharing your knowledge and sharing your story, and kind of, bringing to light not just the things that happened on the pitch today between the clubs, but some of the history that's behind that. And I can't say enough how much I appreciate all of that and your writing and all of that. So I wanted to say thank you for that. And we will have to do this again at some point. And it's been a pleasure to talk to you. And is there anything else that you would like to add to our conversation now?
No, man. I mean, just this friendship, this conversation, it's just an extension of what life is all about. Fans should connect. And I've really enjoyed it as well. And hopefully the Southampton fans get something from this. And again, I really like the club. It's nice to talk to a club that you have some connection with. We are very similar. Sadly, one of us is going to be knocked out of the cup and one of us is going to get relegated. So, it is what it is.
I got one more question. If, being in the US, if they get relegated, if West Brom get relegated, how will that change your viewing experience? What will you do to continue to keep up with the club?
I'll do everything I can. You can search on the internet and find, different feeds, different ways. But I'd be a liar to say it'll be easy.
Right.
Selling games like West Brom versus Burton Albion, it doesn't quite have the gravitas that the Premier League has. And, truthfully is we've had 7 years there, which is a big run for us. We've been a yo-yo club forever and a day, so all good things come to an end. So we'll enjoy the championship and you'll just move on.
Okay.
But yeah, it'll be tougher for sure. It'll be tougher.
Yeah, I asked because I haven't experienced that as a Saints fan yet, and I've only experienced the Premier League in the era where NBC has basically flooded us with coverage and made it so easy. And it is easier to watch Southampton play than it is to watch the Dynamo play, which is the MLS team that I like. And that, whether it's the time actually works out great for me, but, if they were to go down to the championship, it would be extremely hard to stay up to date. I think I just have to go radio most of the time. And it's just a much different kind of experience, but I'm not going to complain about it because had I been a Southampton fan, pre-internet radio, I'd be looking up in the paper to see what the score was on Sunday morning and that'd be it. So, I'm more than thankful for all of it, but I hope that you guys are able to continue your run and hopefully, we can put 3 other teams down and let their fans deal with it and not us.
Well, I've got to say, Matt, part of promotion is the fact your world is opened again. It's very strange that the world does close a bit when you're relegated, in terms of the access that you take for granted to a sense. So yeah, it's lovely to breathe the Premier League air again, and particularly living overseas. But the Championship is awesome. As a fan being in England, the clubs are some of the grounds you go to you don't normally go to, and the fans at times can be a bit more genuine, I think, compared to some of the bigger clubs, corporate clubs. So
right.
So yeah, everything has its benefits, but no, I think. Once you're in London, Matt, I mean, that's the thing. I can't wait to talk to you about that experience. Everything will change.
Yeah.
And by the way, I've seen the Dynamo. I saw them during the Owen Coyle days, about a year and a half ago. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. So there you go. You have a better time with Southampton for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, Andy, I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much again for your time, and good luck 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, raise a toast to Cyrille before you took him tonight, Matt. Make sure you do that.
Absolutely.
Good man.
And that was my conversation with Andy Coulton. Once again, you can find him on Twitter at Andy from Newham, and the link to the article he wrote on Cyrille Regis is in the show notes. I highly recommend you check it out, whether you're a Baggies fan or not. I'd like to make sure and thank Andy for the time he spent with me between family and other obligations. It can be difficult to make time for some dude you don't know who contacted you over the internet that you've never actually spoken to before. But as Andy mentioned, the connection that all fans have, that's what this is all about. So I can't thank Andy enough for his time, and I'm sure we will talk to him again in the future. For the second part of the podcast, we're going to move into a more Southampton, more traditional focus. So to all the Baggies fans, feel free to hang around, but this is probably where you like to switch off. If you have a Saints supporting friend, maybe share the podcast with them. And you can even let us know or let me know what you think of the podcast, but I hope that you've enjoyed it thus far. But I assume you'll be shutting it off now. So bye-bye to you. For the Saints fans that are still here, we're going to go around the world and talk with several different callers who were able to call in and talk about the club. And I tried to ask everybody kind of the same questions so we can get an idea what everybody thought. Hopefully you are able to enjoy that. So let's go to the first caller now, and we'll kind of just run through all 5 callers, and then we'll see you at the end. First of all, I'd just like to welcome you to the show. We have Jasper Shiner calling in. He's at Repsash Shiner. Did I say that right?
Yeah, said it right.
All right. And where are you from, Jasper? I don't know. Are you in the UK?
Yeah, so I'm in the UK. I'm local to Southampton. I've been a Southampton fan all my life. Went to my first game when I was 3 years old. Yeah, I live locally, New Forest area. Okay,
all right. And what we're doing today is we're just trying to get your ideas on the transfer window, on the board, on the manager. Like, what's standing out to you as being either going wrong with Saints or maybe even what you noticed today during the match?
I'll start on the transfer window. I thought that it was quite naive, I think, the transfer window from the club. We let our best player go on the 1st of January. I feel that if you're going to do that, you need to get a replacement in or line one up before you do so, because we've let Van Dijk go for a large sum. Other clubs know we've let him go for a large sum, and it just gives you a very weak negotiating point going forward for the rest of the month. And that seems to have been what's happened, is clubs know that we have a large amount of money to spend, and therefore it kind of drives the prices up of the players that you're looking to sign. I mean, Cyrille has been recruited. Is he a £19 million player? Probably not. But Monaco don't have to sell, and we need to buy. So it's that whole situation. So I think that everybody will agree that it's not been a particularly good January. I don't think we got the targets that we wanted. I think Theo Walcott was probably our number one target, and we seemed to take far too long to kind of do anything with that transfer. It rolled on for 2-3 weeks. You should be looking to do these deals at the start of the window, not towards the end. And, that's had a knock-on effect. We lost out on Theo to Everton. Quincy Promes, Spartak Moscow winger, seemed to be our next target, and is apparently going to be a target in the summer if we stay up. That transfer looked like it could have been done had it been started earlier in the window. It got to the point where the clubs had agreed some sort of fee or some sort of deal where Spartak got the fee they wanted, but it wasn't paid all up front, but they wanted to get a replacement in. And obviously, because it was the last 2 days of the window, they didn't have a chance to do that. So I just think that from the club's point of view, they should have done a better job in recruiting. And I think it's been like that for the last couple of windows. It's not just this January. It was the summer. We brought in a centre-back and a defensive midfielder when we were crying out for a Sadio Mane replacement, a bit of pace and directness in the team.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you kind of look at where we did replace, and we needed a forward, but we've needed a forward for, a season, or a season and a half. And so it seems like we're late to get those replacements in. And like you said, we are kind of forced to pay a premium. Maybe we overpaid, maybe we didn't. We'll see how it all works out with Cyrille. But kind of looking at the performances recently, the win over West Brom pushes us up to 14th, but it's also tight that I'm not sure the league position matters. I think points matter a little bit more right now. But looking at where we are you disappointed? And if so, how disappointed are you in the performances over the course of the season to this point?
I'm disappointed, but I always try and see a positive spin on things. I was one of the few people that thought that Claude Puel probably deserved a second season. I thought that the job he did with, missing Van Dijk and Austin for the majority of the season, I thought that on paper it was, not bad, and that he could have built on that. But I actually had the pleasure of meeting Mauricio earlier in the year. He's a very nice guy. He seems to know a lot about football. And you have to say that there's got to be something that the board, whether it's Les Reed, Ralph Kruger, there's got to be something they're seeing on a daily basis that makes them believe or gives them the confidence that he's the guy to kind of lead us out of the mess that we've got ourselves into. I think we'll all agree that we shouldn't be where we are, but we are where we are, and the team seems to be pulling together of late, unbeaten in 5 before today, albeit most of them draws and 2 of the wins in cup competitions. But, I think it's slowly starting to we're getting back on track.
Do you think there's enough time left for us to stay up? Do you think we'll stay up this season, or do you think we're going to be, and if we do stay up, are we going to be in this kind of relegation fight the entire time, or do you see us kind of pushing on from here?
I think we will stay up. I've kind of been toing and froing over the last week or so. I mean, I was at the Brighton game and it was poor. And I thought, most people on the ground felt that was a must-win game. And we've been saying this for months, this is a must-win game. This is a 6-pointer. And we just keep drawing or not getting the results. I think today was the crunch game. Draw or lose today, I think Mauricio may have gone. He's won, so he stays on. I also think that you mentioned that it's not about league position. It's very much about points accumulated because, from Watford down to the bottom of the table, it's so congested. You put together a couple of results and you're sitting pretty at the top of the pile. It's just about keeping teams between you and the bottom. So I think we'll stay up, but I think it will be a struggle because you look at the fixtures we've still got Liverpool to play. We've got a tricky fixture running.
All right. Well, last question. If you had to change, if you could make a change at one place in the club, whether it's, board, manager, personnel in terms of the playing staff, where would you make the change?
Oh, that's hard. I feel that Les Reed gets a lot of stick. I think a lot of people need to actually sometimes sit back and look at what he's done at the club and for the club. Yes, he may not, nobody gets every decision correct. So I don't think that there's any chance he'd walk away or would be made to leave. You look at what he's achieved and in terms of the finishes over the last few years, you could arguably say it's been Southampton's most successful period in a long, long time. Mm-hmm. So I don't think you can make a change there. I don't think Ralph Kruger has too much to do with the football side of things at the club. So I don't see any sort of point in changing anything at board level. I think the club's fairly well run. We won't find out until the summer what Mr. Gal's intentions are. Mm-hmm. The only argument you could say is that the recruitment hasn't been good enough. But I would say that if we were going to sack the manager, it should have been done in December before the window. I thought we weren't playing particularly well. You would have given a new manager the transfer window to bring in players and make a change. I think that now we haven't done that. You kind of have to stick with him to the end of the season. So I'll go out there and say that actually I don't think right now, post West Brom, I don't think it's worth making any changes.
All right. I think it's fair because I'm not sure anybody's going anywhere right now. And I'm not sure a change right now, looking at some of the managers who are out there, maybe, are going to, really do us any good,
I'd agree.
So, all right. Well, Jasper, I appreciate your time and, thanks for joining the show and, we'll talk to you soon.
It's a pleasure.
Khaled, I'd just like to welcome you to the show and thanks for being willing to come on and talk about the team.
Thank you. It's my honor.
Can I ask where are you calling in from?
From Saudi Arabia. All
right. And how long have you been a Saints fan?
Well, it's been since I think 2011.
And is it hard to watch the team living where you are?
Well, first 3 or 4 years, yes, it was hard. Now every game is on TV.
Okay. All right. And this week, what we're trying to do on the show is just to get an idea about what people think about the transfer window and the club and the direction it's going and things like that. So if I can ask you, what did you make of the transfer window this past January? Do you think the club did an acceptable job, or do you think we failed somewhere?
Well, we failed. I think it's awful window. We get a striker. He's a substituted striker for 20 million. I don't think he will do anything good for the team.
All right. So you think we overpaid for him then?
Yes, I think we could have had Soleimani on loan. Maybe we could get Batshuayi or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. What other areas did you think that the team needed to address?
Well, first of all, center defender.
Okay.
After Van Dijk left, we should have get someone in there.
All right. What about like when we missed out on Theo Walcott and Quincy Promise? Did you think do you think that's an area we needed to address as well?
Well, maybe I think, but we have full-time treatment. We should have done a great job.
All right. Coming into this season, I know we won against West Brom, and that pushes us up to 14th, and it was a great performance, but did you expect us to be where we are on the table, or did you think we were going to be maybe higher up pushing for something else?
Yes, of course. The first, before the season, I think we should have, got 7th place or 8th place at least. I mean, we have, look at what we have. Ufal, Gabbiadini, they're good players.
Okay. if I gave you if you had the power to make one change at the team, if you don't mind, tell us where or who you are and where you're calling from. Maybe replace the manager or something at the board level. What change would you make?
Well, first thing, we get a new manager, of course. I mean, we even lost when it wasn't convinced, to be honest.
Okay, all right. Anybody in particular you would want?
Maybe Self, I think.
All right.
Self has a good manager.
Yeah. No, you're right. Do you have any other thoughts on the team any other points you would like to make?
They have never been honest with the fans. I think over the last 3 or 4 years, they always lie over the fans.
All right, man. Have a good night, and I'll talk to you later.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Martin St. Hill. I'm a 24-year-old teacher living in Saigon in Vietnam. I've been a Southampton fan since 2013, and I was at university there for 3 years. Pochettino's first season and Koeman's 2 full seasons, but haven't only been to 1 game since I left uni.
All right. And where were you from in the UK originally?
Well, it's complicated. I was born in Singapore and I grew up in Asia, so I'm not from anywhere in the UK. But right now I'm living in Lincolnshire.
Okay. All right. Well, I wish we had time to get into all of that because it sounds quite interesting. But first of all, what is it like to watch the team from Vietnam?
I'd say generally it's probably about the same as the UK. I mean, most of the games that would be televised in the UK are televised here as well, and they're on at reasonable times in the evening. The only real problems are the evening kickoffs, which are about 3 a.m. here, so you can't find anywhere to watch them, and the internet's too bad to watch it at home, so you end up following on Twitter and the Live Score app. But overall, it's not too bad here. I probably watch a few more games than I would if I were back home, because sometimes the 3 p.m. kickoffs are televised, whereas they aren't in the UK.
Right. I'm super fortunate here in the US. We get kind of all of them. They're just flooding us with all the matches, trying to get us to watch. So it is fantastic for me. Maybe not so fantastic for my family because I watch them all. But that's okay. Just looking at the January transfer window, it's just closed. Kind of, how do you think the team did? Do you think we did enough, or were you expecting them to do a little bit more during that time?
Well, maybe I was overreacting a little, but the first word I thought of when I thought of the January transfer window was tragic, to be honest, because I thought they knew we needed an attacker, but they didn't bring one in. So whether that was because they didn't want to pay enough or for whatever reason, but I think they should have followed through on that plan. I think not bringing us an attacking player, it risks a lot of problems from the fans because there was a lot of promise, no pun intended, that someone would come. But no, I think while Cyrille is good, he's probably good enough, score a few goals. I'm really disappointed with the board in January overall. Really disappointed.
In addition to the attacking player, was there anywhere else that you would have liked to see them improve the team?
I think the main area, the other area besides attack, was maybe to bring in another central defender, because not replacing Font and not replacing Van Dijk, even with Stevens coming through, that's still a lot of experience and talent that you haven't replaced. So, and Stevens, although he's scoring now and he's done well, I do feel we need a more commanding defender, because we concede a lot of soft goals from set pieces, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, another centre back would have been the other one for me.
All right. Yeah. Both goals we conceded against West Brom were both headers, and Stevens lost. It seems like both of our center backs got outdone there, once by Rondon and once by Hagazi, I think.
Yeah.
In just looking at the season as a whole, obviously we're out of the relegation zone now, but that whole bottom half of the table is so tight. Where did you think we would be at this point in the season, if you were kind of looking at it from the beginning of the season? Did you think this is where we would be, or do you think we'd be a little further up the table?
I thought we'd be solid mid-table, so maybe 8th being optimistic, or 12 a bit more relegation zone. That I'm really shocked by, because for although we obviously lose players, and there's a lot of talent we have to replace, the squad we have now is, you look at it, it just doesn't say relegation material. And you hear it from so many people. Your team's too good to go down. You've got too much talent to go down. But here we are. We're just about above the relegation zone. So I think we should always be comfortable mid-table, maybe pushing for European spots. But relegation, I think that's shocking for us with the squad we have now.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think anybody saw us here. I think you look at the beginning of the season, everybody looks, we should be about where we were last season. And obviously we're just not there. Where, if I gave you the chance to make one change at the club, at any level, what would that one change be?
It's a tricky one. My first thought right now is to say manager, because Pellegrino has been basically woeful for the whole time. But then you wonder, the next manager would come in, would things be much different? I mean, Puel did a little bit better, but then if Pellegrino's come in and done worse, maybe it's not the manager. So Les Reed is maybe an obvious target, but then would changing one person really change our whole direction? Would it stop us selling players so easily? Would it stop us from buying players only cheap? I don't know. It's really hard to say, but I think I'm going to stick with manager because bloody hell, Pellegrino annoys me.
Oh, you're not the only one. But yeah. Any other thoughts on the team at all at this point that you'd like to make?
I don't think we have a bad team, but the main problem with Southampton, and I actually see it through all the 5 years I've been watching, Southampton have a weak mentality. And for some reason, even though the players and managers change, we don't really lose it. So under Koeman in his second season, we had a stronger mentality. But then you remember that run where we went 10 games without a win. If we'd won maybe 5 or 6 of those games, we'd have been in the Champions League place.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my main problem with Southampton. It's not the talent of the players. I accept that sometimes talented players go, it's hard to replace them, but the weak mentality, the same problems over and over again, conceding the first shot on target always. It just that's the main thing that annoys me about it. I like a lot of the players we have, though. I think we have a lot of talented players, which just makes it all the more shocking, but we're near the relegation zone.
Yeah. And it's disappointing to see where we're at now, but hopefully we take some momentum from the West Brom match and continue to move forward. So thank you for your time. And
no, thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure.
Cheers. Have a nice evening.
Yeah. You too.
Bye-bye.
We'd like to welcome back to the show, Jem. Long time no talk, but you've been on the show before, but thanks for being willing to call in and do this episode.
That's all right, mate. It's good to be back on here.
Yeah. So what we're looking for this episode is just to kind of get your thoughts on the transfer window. So if I had to ask you, how did Southampton do in the transfer window? Was it a successful window, or should we have done better, or what were your thoughts on it?
I'm pretty sure if you ask the majority of people in and around Southampton Football Club, everyone will be disappointed. I mean, Guido Carrillo as a signing in itself is good. I mean, it sort of looked like we finally replaced Pella, but it's sort of 2 seasons too late. And still crying out for a centre-back. Obviously, lost Font last January, lost Van Dijk this January, and still haven't really replaced them. I mean, Wesley Hoot's come in. He's done an all right job. Nothing too special. So I still think we need to bring in a centre-back or two in the summer if we want to strengthen up our defence, and that's not knowing if we're going to be in the Premier League or the Championship at this point, because it's a bit of a rocky time at the moment at Southampton. So we're sort of just going from there. But as a whole, I'm pretty disappointed with the transfer window, if I'm honest with you.
All right. What if there was another maybe area of the team that you would have wanted us to improve? Where would that have been?
I know it's cliche, but probably someone out on the wide. Obviously, we had all these links with Quincy Promes. And other players like that. Obviously, it's come to February the 1st, February 2nd. We don't have him. So in the summer, we need to sort of strengthen in the width, because we've got loads of attacking players, the likes of Redmond, Buffal, who can all play out wide. Tadic, Ward-Prowse, even this season, has been played out wide quite a lot. But I still think we need that sort of star quality in there, sort of to replace Mane in a sense. Yeah.
I think, like you said, it seems to be a common kind of thread and theme. And I think the more times we hear it, maybe it just, I don't know. If one person's saying it, maybe they're crazy, but if everybody's saying it, maybe we're doing the right thing. But, looking at the season, are we where you would have thought we would have been? Or would you think, I know we're 14th right now, but the whole bottom of the table is so tight. Where did you think we were going to be at this point in the season?
If I'm honest with you, I didn't think we'd be as low as we are, but I knew we wouldn't be sort of reaching the top 7, top 8 like we were previous seasons. Obviously, failing to replace key players again at the start of the season, I wasn't confident. Obviously, not knowing much about Pellegrino as a manager, obviously doesn't fill me with confidence. But we look at where we are now, and we've got to think, we just have to think short-term objectives at the moment, just get as many points and results as possible. Doesn't really matter about performances at this point, in my opinion. We just got to grind out results, get points on the board and stay up, and then go again next year.
All right. If I gave you the opportunity to make one change at the club at any level you could choose, what change would you make?
The cliche answer is probably Pellegrino, but I don't know. I feel like Les Reed and Ralph Kruger, I feel like the whole team and the whole squad needs a refresh, to be honest. Other teams like West Ham and Arsenal have been calling for the same thing. I don't really think Arsenal are in that much trouble. Obviously, Champions League, Europa League football, year in, year out. Obviously, top class signings, Mkhitaryan, Aubameyang, and we're sat down here in 14th at the moment, not making signings, losing easily winnable games, not being able to hold leads. But I'd still probably go with Pellegrino. I feel like if we did get the right manager in that could sort of gel with the players, we'd do all right, sort of top 10. But yeah, Pellegrino would be the one change that I'd make.
Yeah, if Pellegrino doesn't get it together this year, we will be holding Leeds next year at St. Mary's. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But yeah, anything else you'd like to mention before we let you go to class?
Pellegrino out.
All right. Well, Jim, thanks again for stopping by to do this, and I appreciate it.
That's all right.
I'll talk to you later. And we are joined by Harry. Harry, do you want to give us your Twitter name and tell us where you're calling in from?
Hi, I'm from Southampton, the Hedge End, and my Twitter is H_Tizos.
All right. And you made the trip up to West Brom yesterday, or on match day, is that correct?
Indeed. Yeah, on match day, on Saturday. It was a good game.
Yeah, atmosphere?
Oh, it was, because of the Cyrille Regis remembrance, it was electric, totally sold out. And for the past times I've been at West Brom, it's been a bit, I wouldn't say dull, but it didn't have that like electric atmosphere, at least at the start. And when everyone held their scarves up, it was amazing, especially the game as well, 5 goals, edge of your seat, and yeah, it was a great day.
Yeah, it was definitely a range of emotions from the pre-match ceremony to them going up 1-0, and then to us going up 3-1, and then them pulling one back. It was, even for me sitting here in my kitchen, it was intense. So I can't imagine what it was like to be there. But today we're kind of wanting to get your ideas on the transfer window. It's just closed. And I'll just be really, really short with the question is do you think we had a successful transfer window? And then maybe tell us a little bit about why you think yes or no.
I would say in some ways we did have a successful transfer window. Being able to get 75 million for a good defender, but obviously not for someone that much, as worth that much. And then being able to get the target man that everyone was begging for. But maybe not the name people were begging for, but at least the target man for, like, we haven't replaced Pella from a few years ago. So in that way we have, but then we had 75 million and we should have brought in a winger. We took too long to bid 30 million on Promes. Too late. They weren't able to get in an adamant replacement, because I think the guy that they got in was probably just to bolster their squad. We didn't get a centre back either. We weren't able to replace Van Dijk, and although Stevens has been playing well in the attacking way recently, he's not been able to mark players from corners, and I don't think it will cost us relegation at the end of the season, but I definitely think if we got a good solid centre back in, even if it was 15, 20 million, I think that would have really helped us. So overall, I don't think it was, because we didn't invest enough of the Van Dijk money back into the team, especially after we had promised that from the board that was going to happen.
Right. You mentioned both. We did get the target man. Maybe, like you said, maybe not the name people wanted. We missed out on both Theo Walcott and Promise. But you think, and then the center back. So you think those are kind of the areas that we needed to address, and we addressed one of them, but not the other two. With the win over West Brom, it bumps us up to 14th, but that whole bottom half of the table is so tight. Are we sitting right now where you expected us to be? If you would have said, if I asked you that at the beginning of the season, where would we be right now? Would you say 14th or, just outside the relegation zone, or would you expect us to be somewhere else?
I would definitely have expected us to be higher, considering there were squads that we have against, especially the promoted sides like Brighton. I think they might be ahead of us. They might be slightly behind us, but we've only just got ahead of them. And then a few of the teams around us, I definitely would have thought we would have been higher. And it is disappointing, especially knowing how good we can be on occasions like yesterday, the fight that we showed. And also showing glimpses of it through the season. So I definitely would have hoped, and I would have believed at the start of the season that we would have been higher. Maybe if that was only 10th or 11th, it might maybe a bit higher, maybe even a bit lower. But I would have definitely expected us to be high, especially when you look at all the other fans' reactions once in the Pellegrino and the board out, stuff like that. I personally definitely would have believed we'd have been higher, and I am slightly disappointed at our league position.
Yeah. Do you think we'll stay up at the end of the season, or do you think we will be in danger of being relegated all season?
I think we'll be in and thereabouts the relegation area, but so 8 or 9 teams, and like we saw yesterday, just a simple win. Well, it wasn't a simple win. No win's simple in the Premier League, but a win after 12 games not winning still boosted us up to 14th. So I think we'll be battling all season, but I think in the end we'll comfortably be able to stay up with 3-4 games remaining. And, we might even put a run together, we haven't got the luck, when we played against Watford and that goal went in when Højbjerg hit the bar from it just slashing off his back. So we could be even higher. I'm not too sure. But yeah, I definitely think we could get out of that relegation battle within 4 or 5 games from the end of the season. All
right. And then kind of last question, if I gave you the chance to make one change at the club, whatever it is, whatever level you wanted to make that change at, what one change would you make?
One change that I could make. I would definitely, I don't know whether I'd change Les Reed, but I'd at least change the ambition of the club, because we haven't spent 20 plus million. We're very close on career not spending 20 plus million, but we haven't spent 20 plus million on a player. I haven't seen the ambition that we used to have. And if I could change anything, whether that's Les Reed going out and a new director coming in, or wherever he does to do transfers, or just him changing his ambition, I'll definitely look at that, because a few seasons ago we were champions. I wouldn't quite say Champions League, people were pushing it, saying that, but we were Europa League contenders every year, and now 2-3 seasons later we're fighting relegation, and maybe next year we might be doing the same. If it was my choice, I would either change the director or just change the ambition of the club, because otherwise we'll be in a spinning spell of death, how teams like Hull and Aston Villa and Wigan did a few seasons ago.
Yeah. Well, Harry, that kind of wraps it up for me. Is there any other point you'd like to make before I let you go?
I can't think of any.
All right. Well, Harry, I appreciate it. And
thanks very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Steve.
And that does it for this week's episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you enjoyed it. Special thanks to all of my guests this week for coming on the show. And thanks to everyone who tagged somebody else in Twitter posts trying to get someone else to come on the show. Next time, we'll get you on, and I'd love to speak with you then. Remember to check out Andy Coulton's piece on Cyrille Regis as a tribute to him. It's in the show notes. And also remember to give all of the guests a follow on Twitter if you're into that sort of thing. This podcast, as always, is partnered with The Saints Report. For all your Southampton news and needs, be sure to follow The Saints Report on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. The links are in the show notes. And while you're there, you can follow this show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We're at SFCDELL_IVERY on Twitter and Instagram. And at Facebook.com/SFCDelivery on Facebook. There is no underscore in the Facebook address. The artwork for the show is done by Matt from the We Are Southampton page on Instagram. For matchday edits, polls, competitions, and more, be sure to check out the We Are Southampton page on Instagram. Matt, who runs the page, has been a guest on the show. He did the artwork. It's all good. Give him a follow. If you haven't done so yet, you can subscribe to this show on iTunes, Stitcher, Acast, Google Play, TuneIn Radio, or wherever you get your podcasts to be sure that you do not miss the next episode. If you're enjoying the show, consider leaving a review. If you're new, share it with somebody. Hopefully it makes their day. All music from this week's episode comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. The intro song is Epic Song by Boxcat Games. The end of show credits that you're listening to now is Aim is True by Poddington Bear. My name is Matt Markstone. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show. And until next time, remember that together, we march on.